my question kind of links to one of Justin's questions yesterday. I'm wondering how we get back to certain addresses from dreaming. I think I do some of my best work and get my best advice about how to live this life and grow up in lucid dreaming. But if a dog barks, which I'm afraid of, I will wake. If a helicopter, there's a hospital, I wake. And I have a hard time getting back. If I meditate, I look for the address, but I'm not quite getting there. And I'm good if a rabbit comes, I'll follow the rabbit, I'll have a great adventure. But I want to figure out a way how to get back to those addresses in the lucid dreams where I get really solid stuff. I'm still me. I'm not, like some people speak about being a child. I'm still me. But the energy and the beings that show up are completely different than what I encounter in this dimension, in this incarnation. And sometimes it's more esoteric and sometimes it's really practical. So I want to figure out how to get back to lucid dreaming address.
Okay, well, what you need to do is you remember very clearly the experience you were having in and around the time you left, or just the last time that you were in an experience that really worked well for you, okay, that you were connecting. And if you would like to have that, continue that experience, I don't mean have that experience again, but I really mean continue similar experiences, you just start with your memory. Go back to it. Be there. Experience it. In other words, bring it back up in your mind. Bring it back up in your imagination and just be there. Start right where you were. In other words, step right into the conversation you were having. Step right into the connections you were having. And what happens is that as you let go and embrace that, the larger conscious system will begin to reconnect all that and take it off from wherever it left off. You'll just start from where that left off and continue on. So you start with your imagination. It's like, okay, I can remember it. It's my imagination, my memory. And I'm going to go back and start being it, doing it again, not just looking at it from the outside, like, oh, yeah, that's the way I remembered. There I was, and there they were. Not as a third party, but being in it. I'm there. I'm talking. I'm having this conversation. So go right back to the last thing you remember clearly, and clearly live it again. Be there. And if you can do that without your intellect jumping in, trying to say, okay, is this just me? Or is this something else now? Or is this, if you can keep your intellect from judging, then the LCS will pick right up with that and you'll be there. You'll be right back in that space again. The difficulty is getting by your intellect. If the intellect is going to sit there on your shoulder and say, well, am I doing it yet? I don't know. I'm not so sure. How will I know? How will I know I'm really doing it and I'm not just, making this all up? You see, if you get into that, then that will ruin it and that won't happen. So you just go do it. Say, well, it doesn't matter. I'm just here. I'm going to do this again. And always you will find that as soon as you let go of the am I doing it issue, you will be doing it, and the system will immediately start feeding you a data stream that's exactly where you left off, interacting in those ways in that situation with those entities. So that's how you get back to it. The trick is to get your intellect out of the way to where you can just go back and start off again. And with practice, you'll find that that's really easy. It's just as easy as it is to remember and be there in your mind. You just have to get that intellect to sit down. Now, what makes that intellect so tenacious is fear. Fear and ego, again, that's the problem. The fear says, I'm not sure this can work. I don't trust it. I need to have proof that it's actually working and I'm not just fooling myself. You see, that's the fear. So that fear gets in the way. If you just don't have that fear, then you just go on and do it, and it happens very naturally and very easily. So I would say just practice that. And, you know, that is a problem that most people have. It's a very fundamental problem of getting that intellect to butt out. And I'd say probably everybody here, you know, struggles with that problem in some way, in some form. It's just, that's a fundamental problem. And usually the solution is pretty much all the same. Start with your imagination and let the system then plug into that. In other words, your imagination tells the system where you want to be, what you want to be involved in. And as you go down that path, it just, instead of your imagination feeding you data, it starts feeding you data, and there you are. Because all that was in the first place was your own single player game. You were getting information from the system. It had all these other players in it, whomever or whatever they were, and you were interacting with them, and that's what was going on. And you can get right back to that if you give the system entree to feed you that data stream. And the way you give them that permission and that entree to connect to you with that data stream is to get your intellect to get out of the way and for you to just have the intent to make the connection. So one of the tools I have, and you'll, no doubt be able to gain from it, as will almost everybody here, the Tom's Park thing that we started doing here in this particular class has grown, and I'll talk about it later, but it's grown and become something different than it was. And now it is a tool for doing just what I described. It's a way to practice starting off with imagination and letting another data stream pick up those strands and continue on with its own game. So it starts with you creating the data, but quickly dissolves into the LCS providing the data. And that is a learned skill that just takes some practice. And now the new and improved Tom's Park is going to be a tool that will help you develop that skill and strengthen it and let that process work smoothly and easily. So that's how you get back into those things. It's a single player game. Think of it that way. It's a single player game with you and the LCS. It's giving you that particular game because it works for you, because it's something that connects with you. It's got the right metaphors and the right connections. So it's very profitable for you. That's why it gives you that. And it's perfectly willing to work with you because you're trying to learn, trying to grow. You're a person of interest in its viewpoint because you're actually trying to grow up. Okay, so it's going to connect with you when it can, when you allow it. And this is a way that you allow that connection to take place. You enable it to be seamless. And so anyway, that's the way to do it. Otherwise, you have to wait for just the right situation to happen such that you get there. Everything has to be just right, your mindset right, everything else right, not too upset, not too, wrapped around some other kind of problem. Everything has to kind of sort out. So the noise just happens to be low. The signal happens to be strong, all at the same moment, and bingo, there you are. And it happens. Well, you want to be able to do it without having to wait for a full moon and the stars to all align, all at the same time. You want to be able to just do it because you want to, as opposed to you just happen to have a low noise moment coinciding with a strong intent, and it happens.
So when you say use imagination, so something as simple as saying, sorry guys, a dog woke me up, I'm back. What were you trying to tell me? And just pretend I'm there, that I'm just telling them why I left because I don't want to be rude. So I just explained to them. Something simple as that.
Exactly. Something just as simple as that. And be right back in it. But you just have to keep the intellect out of the way. Just go right back to it. Because if you say, okay, I wonder if that worked. Did that work? Well, then if you do that, it won't work. You just have to, because then you're not actually grasping that data stream they're sending you. You're putting another data stream, which is your intellect, trying to decide whether it worked or not, that gets in the way. So
Okay.
just, yes, hey, sorry guys,
Hey,
dog
guys.
barked, it distracted me, no problem, I'm back. Let's just pick it up where we left off. That's all it takes.
Okay, that's what I'm going to use. Thank you very much, Tom. Very helpful.
Mhm.